Welcome to the UN75 Global Governance Forum. It's a pleasure to address this distinguished group of speakers and participants and to deliver greetings from the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. In light of the many challenges facing humanity, the Secretary-General did not want the 75th anniversary of our organization to be a celebration. Rather, he wanted this to be a year of reflection, of listening to the global public, and of discussion on where the world is heading and how we can better build the future we want and the UN we need. All of us at the UN are grateful to the Stimson Center, to the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, to the Global Challenges Foundation, the One Earth Future, and the Global Governance Philanthropy Network for putting together this thought-provoking program. Several of us will be participating at different points in the agenda, and I look forward to joining you for the concluding session. Thank you.
Good evening from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. My name is Adriana Hertal Abdenur, and I'm the Executive Director of Plataforma Cipó, a think tank dedicated to climate, governance, and peace building here in the region. In Latin America and the Caribbean, we have a long history of regional cooperation, but at the moment these channels are being underutilized. How can the UN better work with regional organizations so as to support Latin American and Caribbean states and societies in tackling the ongoing crisis, not just the pandemic itself, but also the long process of socioeconomic and environmental recovery that lies ahead? Thank you.
The COVID-19 pandemic has plunged us into an acute health and economic crisis, the impacts of which I think will be felt for years to come. Already we're experiencing the first rise in global poverty in over 2 decades and the first fall in human development in many more decades. Addressing this crisis will require global solidarity and cooperation like never before, through financial, political, and practical support. At the same time, action must be locally determined and locally owned. Here, regional organizations are vital partners. They have the proximity, the knowledge of local dynamics, and the flexibility in relationships to engage rapidly in times of crisis. While many current regional organizations did not exist in 1945, Chapter 8 of the United Nations Charter nonetheless is devoted to them. Such was the vision of the UN's founders. And today, the Secretary-General has made clear that we need better networked multilateralism that brings together the UN system, regional organizations, financial institutions, and others.
My name is Nandini Harihar. I'm a research analyst at the Council of Energy, Environment and Water at New Delhi, India. Presently, our global emissions and commitments are not in line with the Paris climate targets, which is further likely to worsen with large emitters like US and Brazil rolling back on the Paris Agreement, and the economic downturn is a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Given that the Paris targets are based off of voluntary national commitments to reduce global emissions, my question to the Honorable UN Secretary-General is how do we enhance national ambitions in light of the global economic downturn and ensure continued national commitment from countries that are not on board for extensive climate action? Thank you.
We have to scale up climate action because our survival and the welfare of next generations depends on it. The climate emergency is an existential crisis, and even though it may have disappeared from the headlines due to COVID-19, it continues unabated. This year was the hottest on record. Indeed, COVID-19 has further exposed the fragility of our societies to global shocks. It has given us a small foretaste of the disruption we will experience if we don't act now. Yes, we are facing a grim picture economically, with poverty, inequality, and unemployment on the rise. But we will pay an even higher price if we do nothing. COVID-19 has shown that huge transformations are possible in our societies and economies when political will is aligned with popular support. We must harness this formula to build back better, to build back in a more green manner. We have a unique opportunity to move towards a fairer and more sustainable future. Let's make sure we seize this opportunity.
Mr. Secretary General, my name is Andreas Bummel, and I represent Democracy Without Borders. In a speech last month, you stressed the need for a new model for global governance that is based on inclusive and equal participation in global institutions. Together with a group of civil society organizations from across the world, we promote a citizen-elected UN Parliamentary Assembly and the instrument of a UN World Citizens Initiative. Both of these proposals are also endorsed by the recent UN75 People's Declaration. We would like to know what action you plan to take for these proposals to be looked at and hopefully implemented.
To date, over 1 million people across the world in every country have taken part in the UN75 global consultations, and the demand for more meaningful participation in global decision-making has emerged loud and clear. The United Nations Secretary-General has set out a bold vision for more inclusive multilateralism that draws on the critical contributions of youth, civil society, business, foundations, the research community, local authorities, cities, and regional governments. One of the biggest transformations we've seen over the last 75 years is the multitude of actors who now play a role in global governance and in peace, sustainable development, and human rights. Governments are no longer the only actors or even the primary actors in certain fields. But while we've come a long way in this regard, we are still a long way from the full realization of the Secretary-General's vision. I hope that the results of the UN75 consultation and the follow-up process to the UN75 declaration, which member states will adopt later this month, will help move things forward.